have
This
to keep in
conference
your
will now
mind.
be recorded.
Okay, JavaScript is not something that we can learn within a days of time.
Mm.
So it will be very difficult. It's not something like a simple kind of subject. When we compare with like HTML and CSS, maybe the guy can spend like a month of time. They can learn something on
Mm.
HTML and CSS. Everybody can learn, but not JavaScript is not something like an everybody, because when we are talking about JavaScript, right? So probably what we need apart from that, when you talk about HTML, right? So you do not need any kind of logical thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, when you are putting in a H1, or when you are keeping like creating paragraph or div elements, you do not need to any logical thinking, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the elements that HTML is providing, the same way you can put it. You're not actually doing something brainstorm over there. Okay, what I need to put there, and what kind of element we I need to place here. Not that much of no worry is not required. Once you
Mm.
practice that, you will get it. But when you come to CSS, you don't need a logical thinking. But what you need is like you should have some creativity. Why? Because when you are seeing an application, or when you are seeing a web page, it should be like a good user experience, like nice color combinations, like the way you are taking the fonts and font sizes, and the way you are using the icons. Right? It all comes into the UX, right? The colors
Yes.
and all. So the option that we have is only CSS only, where you can make the static website. I mean, static in the sense like a plain website to like a rich user interface, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Still, you don't need any logical things over there. But what you need is you need some sort of like creative mindset.
Mm.
But when it comes to JavaScript, I mean, the creativity is not at all required. Maybe some point of it is required, like once you deep dive into that. But what is the basic things is required is logical thinking.
Mm.
And the main thing, like when you work on HTML and CSS, okay, when you are trying to learn HTML and CSS, there is no prerequisite for them. That's the reason I told you like previously, anybody can learn HTML and CSS.
There's no what?
There is no prerequisite.
Oh.
Prerequisite in the sense, like let us say that
Yeah.
if you want to learn something, yeah, right?
Yeah. I just
Prerequisite.
didn't hear.
Yeah. So if you want to learn something, you should already aware of some other technology or some other languages like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, let's say example, if you want to straight away, if you want to go no, like Java classes, right? Nothing, you won't get anything. So at least you should understand that some concept of programming basics in C or C++ or something like that. So that
Mm.
is kind of a tricky. Okay, so now when you are talking about HTML CSS, there is no prerequisite. That is the reason that I told you like anybody can learn it. But when it comes to JavaScript, there is a two factors here. One is that few people will say that definitely you need like some programming knowledge. But I'll definitely say no to this point. Okay, because I never go to any college. I never go to any I never did any kind of like bachelor's or master degrees in computers. But still, I'm handling that. Still, I'm
Mm.
working on JavaScript. Still, I'm working on front end frameworks, and I understand the subject as well. But
Mm.
what we need to put is, we need to put a lot of efforts, okay, to learn that, because we do not have any academic kind of knowledge in programming skills. So that is the reason, when IT or CSC people, right, IT and CSC groups in engineering, they will
Yeah.
easily mold that their career into, I mean, they easily jump into that IT careers when compared with that, non-IT branches like, mechanical or, electronics. For them, it will be very difficult to, continue their career in the IT, because in their academics as well, when you see that CSC and IT, so in their academics itself, like the professors are all the subjects slowly injecting the programming knowledge and programming skills. Of course, that is a different subject. How many are really consuming that in knowledge, but that we are not actually going to talk now. But the point is, they will start inject that. At least at the end, last year, they have to submit they had to submit their project, right?
Yeah.
For that also, they will go some institutions and all, and they will learn something, and they will get some certification from the institutes or something like that. But when it
Mm.
compared with to other branches, they won't get this much of injections, right? So when we are talking about the JavaScript, so what we need, we need some kind of understanding since it's a very important. And second thing, we should think in a logical way. That is the most important. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
Now let me share my screen. So probably what you can see. One second. Yeah. So probably if you go for any technology, like sorry, not technology, any tutorials on that, right? Probably if you look at that, JavaScript tutorials for beginners or JavaScript tutorials, they'll start from that, like what is a JavaScript and introduction. But you should understand that what is the scope has JavaScript. That is the most important thing, to learn JavaScript. And you will also get a complete picture, what we can do with the JavaScript and what is the main purpose of it, right? So it's been almost a 14 years, from my experience. When I joined initially, there is no Java. I mean, JavaScript is there, but people are not even really focusing on JavaScript. There were only kind of website which build an HTML and CSS maximum.
Mm. I saw that
When
it was
somebody
made.
knows, sorry.
I saw it was made in 1993 or five.
Yeah, probably 90s only, obviously. Okay,
Yeah.
but even I joined in. I mean, I came into this career like 2009 or 10 between the time. But
Mm.
even during that initial period itself, I never heard such a guy like Okay, he's the guy who knows JavaScript. We never hear that sound as well anywhere. I mean, from all the sources, because
Mm.
that time what we know only to build a website using with HTML and CSS. If you need some animations, okay, let's download some websites and then put that code and put into our website. Or maybe for animations, we'll go for a some 2D animation tools as a Flash.
Wait, so
So max to max. Hmm?
was it possible to make a website functional with just HTML and CSS before?
Yeah, I'm coming to that point. Okay.
Oh.
So what is going to be happen? The very good question that you have asked. So still they're functioning without JavaScript also.
Mm. It just can't
Yeah,
do
still.
anything. Okay.
Yeah, we can do still. Yeah, still we can do. Yeah,
Oh.
still we can do. But how suddenly that the JavaScript boom and the market has been increased very widely into the market. And nowadays, if you now if there is a company looking for, they're not now nowadays companies not looking for only HTML CSS. They definitely need a JavaScript as well.
Mm.
100%. So when they are talking about the developer, I'm not saying about the designer. When they are talking about designer, obviously they will look the technologies what you are learning and what you are in right now. But when you tag into your profile, and you add the developer, definitely they will look for JavaScript in your profile while they are staying in your profile,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why that much of scope has been increased much, and how the people handled previously without JavaScript. Okay, that is a very good point, and it takes like in like 15 minutes of time, and what you have to understand very carefully this. Okay, this is not exactly related to the subject of JavaScript. This is completely related to the scope of JavaScript. Okay,
Mm.
you won't get this information anywhere. Probably very rare to have this information even in the tutorials on YouTube. But yeah, trust me, this definitely understand that why the JavaScript is that much is needed. Tomorrow if you feel if you are not comfortable with that that UX design and all, and if you think that you have a logical thinking and all, you can straight away jump into development as well. Still there is a possibility.
Okay.
Okay.
I
I
see.
mean that works. Who knows that? People
Yeah.
who joined as a UI trained UI students for me. They're not actually doing UA only. Once the course is done and all that, so they will move to different kind of job roles. Few of them will
Mm.
be into testing. Few of them will be into backend developer. They don't know what it means by backend development and all.
Yeah, my parents always pushed me to
How.
be a developer.
Yeah. So I know like how the marketing is going to happen for a profile and what kind of experience they are putting in their profile and how they are really doing that mock interviews or maybe not mock it, but proxy interviews and all that stuff is a complete different story that I know. But the point
Mm-hmm.
is, once you want to jump into other career, okay, which is growing vast, so that there is a possibility scope for you also. So once if I explain the entire scope so that you will think wisely, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So now, first of all, what exactly the JavaScript that going to use? Okay, is the question. Okay. So what is going to happen with the JavaScript? So I will tell you like step by step. Initially, we were not actually focusing on JavaScript. We will try. We were only created a website using with HTML and CSS. Plain HTML and CSS, and of course there is no responsive concept also those days.
Mm.
Okay, not even adaptive, no responsive, no adaptive, nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, there is no much of mobile usage also, right? With the
Mm.
9 and 10 times,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the last 10 years itself, like people are using mobile. Usually, I mean, mobile is a very common thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was smartphones. Those time there is no smartphone also. We have only one kind of phone with a
Yeah.
limited options. That too, it is selected. There is no touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, we were able to create a website using with HTML, CSS, and what exactly we use it JavaScript. We use it very less. Very less in the sense max to maximum 5% into the website. So what exactly purpose that we are using? Mainly for animation, nothing else.
Mm.
Nothing else. Probably this animation in the sense the image sliders, and second that tab content. Tab content in the sense like if you see the bootstrap and all right, so you will get it there.
Yeah. It's just like all the navigation tabs, right?
Yeah. Let us see if we have any tabs. Mouse tabs. Yeah, this kind of stuff.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
when you click on that, actually you will get that tabs on them, right?
Yeah.
That the tab. So for that tabs purpose, we may we were using that tab, and what is accordion, of course. Max to max three or four scenarios, or maybe like model boxes. What you can see everything in the instead of animation, I can add that carousel. Now these four you can straight away find in Bootstrap also.
Yeah.
So earlier to place any of these into the website is like a nightmare. Initial time I was saying there will be a lot of issues, and we were not able to debug that properly into the inspect mode. I mean that inspect element also. We don't know
Mm.
how to exactly to operate the inspect element.
Okay.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
those times this is how this is the scope of has JavaScript to use them. But later, what exactly happened? And before I jump into this, still even those days also we have a kind of logins, logouts, and applications is there still. Still applications is there,
Yeah.
logins and logout. But how really we were handled these logins and logouts? So in HTML, CSS, whatever the design that we have done, so we are directly integrating with the backend languages. So understand this point. Whatever the HTML pages that we did, we were integrating directly with the backend languages. So let us say usually when you check this is the index page, that HTML page. But when we are integrating to any other technologies like a PHP, the file become changed as index.html to index.php or index.jsp or index.asp or aspx. Let me put
Mm.
dot dot dot. So This is the basically HTML page, but when you want that logins and logouts and other functionalities, right? Even though for validations and all, everything will be the file extension is going to change as a PHP, JSP, ASP. These are all the backend technologies.
Mm.
Okay, so our HTML code will be, I mean, okay, I'll tell you in a different way. So their code, whatever the code that they have, right? Their code they will integrate into text.html in HTML page. So when they integrated their code into HTML page, the extension will be changed as the language.
Oh,
You're getting my
so
point?
is it like style.css or is it different?
No, it's different. See, style.cs is completely standalone, where there is no relation on it because style.cs is purely we use for styles purpose only.
Mm.
Okay, see, let's say example index.html, we are writing internal styles, right?
Yeah.
Like this. But we never change this extension to like dot style or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are getting my point?
Yeah.
We are using internal styles, but we never change that index.html instead of the .html. We never use an index.css or
Oh.
index.style because
Okay.
the browser understands only HTML,
Mm.
right? But the case is completely different here because in index.html, entire HTML is there, but they're actually using their syntaxes here. But whenever they're using their syntaxes, it will become as if, I mean, they used to save the files as a PHP or JSP, or ASPX
Mm. Okay.
because completely their syntax is completely different from HTML.
So is it a whole different code or is it connected?
And completely, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, you can see HTML elements. Let us say, example, I'll tell you, like, let's say that, the code is something like this. Okay. And we are talking about that, Java kind of code, something like this, but still you can see that, HTML tag here. So now if you see this,
Well, yeah.
yeah. So definitely, I'm just giving a reference, but this is how that it works. And whenever we see this kind of thing, it cannot be HTML, right? So obviously, whatever the code that they injected, if they injected PHP code, the file will become as a .php.
Mm.
And the difficult part here is you cannot test this in your local because in your local browser only understands that .html. When you're mixing both of them, the browser also don't understand much. So we have to now host this file into server. Then only you can check.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is the one thing. And second thing, whatever the backend code they have their own server and all locally. So instead of checking live, so they can check into they can run the pages in their server. It is not going to be okay. So the point is, once it became index.php, right? It won't directly run into the browser because browser understands I don't know .html only and .html syntax only. When it
Mm.
became a .php, it won't run into the browser directly. So they have their own servers locally. So within their servers only, all these files will be going to work. So this much
Oh.
of difficulties is there, to handle everything.
Mm.
Nowadays, after that, you understand this concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, when JavaScript has increased a lot, so later we got jQuery. So we felt in array, we don't know anything about JavaScript, but jQuery came into the market. What exactly jQuery it is? So
Mm.
jQuery is a JavaScript library, like how we are talking about the Bootstrap nowadays, right? In the same
Mm.
way, it
It's like
is
a
complete. Bootstrap is something a new language, right? Bootstrap is
yeah.
using end of the day HTML and CSS only for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that we are using. The same way, jQuery is not a complete language or technology. It is creating a library based on the JavaScript only. So let us say, in order to do some animations or some effects, right, for all of them. If you want to write in this, usually we used to call it as a core JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript or plain JavaScript. Okay, when you are writing a requirement, let's say example, there is a requirement coming in, and you want to write a JavaScript code. So to write a JavaScript code in vanilla JavaScript, it takes like half day of work, and it takes like 20 lines of code or maybe 30 lines of code. But when you're integrating same thing with jQuery, it will be like half of the percent only. The time also reduced and the code length also will be reduced, because when you are using a JavaScript, sorry, jQuery library, everything is there, because jQuery library is not something like a new technology. It is built based on the JavaScript only.
What
So
other
in other words,
library?
simply,
What other
sorry,
libraries are there? What other libraries are there? Is React a library?
yeah, React is a library, Angular is a framework, and there are a lot of JavaScript frameworks and libraries we have in the market now.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so um, because of that, this library came into the picture. So we know it to write a vanilla JavaScript. Okay, so that much
Mm.
of jQuery was there, and the main important thing is all the validations that we are doing, right? So that easily we can either we can make it JavaScript and we can make it jQuery. And the most important point is, which I'm telling right now, most important topic, which actually completely changes the front-end development world. That is API calls.
Mm.
Okay,
What's
so this is very, yeah. I'll tell you what exactly it is. API stands for Application Programming Interface.
okay?
Okay, Application Program Interface. API. Let's see this. Yeah, probably this works. Yeah, you can understand this one. Okay,
Mm.
so now what is API? Okay, so now end users in the sense like you or like me. Okay,
Mm.
so this is the computer which is there in front of in front of us. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever you hit whenever you click on login button, after you filling your username and password, you should click the login button, right, or sign up button, right?
Yeah.
I'm just giving an example. You can take any of the website. You can take a Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of the website. Usually, when
Okay.
you are trying to log in, you should give your email ID or username and password is a must things, right? And when you
Mm.
click the submit button, do you think ever what is going to be happen when you click on the submit button or login button?
Uh, Wait, repeat that?
No. Do you ever think, okay, you've been logging into all the social networking website since so many hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You used to log in every day. But do you think really when you enter your username and password and when you click the submit button, what exactly is going to happen behind the screens?
It checks with the data, like to make sure it matches
Yeah, I
up.
mean that one. Yeah, yeah, no, no. That we already, if you remember, initial the discussions, when we started the session, that time we discussed all these points. You remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what exactly is going to happen? So right now, this picture is clearly telling that once we click the sign in button, one request will go.
Mm.
One request will go. So the request will go, and where exactly the request is going? The request is going to web server. The request is going to web server. And
Mm.
what exactly the web server does here, web server will check that whether the records are there in database or not.
Mm.
Okay, if the record is there or not, this database will give some response to web server, and the web server gives the same response back to the apps in the browser and mobile use. So, which is this? I mean, what is this? This is our system, and you are the end user, so it will distribute it. So,
Okay.
in simple terms, when you are trying to log in, or when you are trying to click on submit button, or when you are accessing anything, okay, immediately one request will go to the server, and the server will return the response to you.
Mm.
Okay, so the entire thing will be handled by API only. So API will take your API will take your request and will give the response to you.
Okay.
So when it is go to the web server, we are not actually going to take care of any of the things. So this is completely backend developer headaches to connect to database to get the response, to send the request and send the response. So this is completely different. And if you remember one of my statement initial days, being as a front-end developer, we front-end developers, and there is a limitation. We cannot straight away hit the database to get the data. You remember the same point, I told you initial days as well. There is no scope and there is a limitation for us. We cannot straight away hit the database to check the data, because if you are able to check directly to the database, and there is no point of having the web server in between. So that is the reason this we are calling as a middleware.
And would it be a safety concern?
Sorry.
Would it be a safety problem as
No,
well?
see, the point is, yeah, see, the point is, if everything you should handle from your side, like, how securely you are sending a request. At the same time, the server will take care of that, how securely it is giving a response.
Mm.
Okay. So, the point is, we are not actually hitting anything straight to the database. So, if you
Okay.
see that there is no connection here so this is a client in the sense, not like a physical form of the client in the sense browser. Make sure to understand this point. When you are talking about in the especially in the UI development, when you are talking about client means a browser,
Mm.
not like a physical form or physical person as a, like, that we used to call like a client, right? No, not that
Yeah.
client is mean by browser.
Okay.
When client requests, when client requests for a response, how client will get that? So API will take care of that entire headache, and API will take the request and pass that request to web server, and the web server really checks that data whether it is there in the database or not. Web server only will take care of that, because client doesn't have that much of capacity to connect directly to the database.
Mm.
So web server will take the data and it will return the response to client. And most of all, again, the another important point which you should understand, when we are talking about client, it is purely front end and browser. See, when you are talking about browser, it is a front end work only, right?
Yeah.
So client side technologies. When you say that client side technologies, all this HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or any JavaScript frameworks, all these are all client related stuff only. Okay,
Mm.
so whatever the technology we have, okay, so there is a clear limitation that it won't go to better way to the database. So all this job will be taken care by API, application program interface. So
Mm.
earlier days, it was like, hell to hit the API. If you remember, I told you like, PHP. So whatever the language that they are using, their language syntax they are including into the HTML page. Then it will be very easy that for them, to hit the API calls. But nowadays, still we can write a HTML page only. Okay, we don't need to change anything, but still we can hit the API calls without changing that and without writing any programming language here, like any backend programming language like a PHP or JSP or something like that. We can write an API calls. I mean,
Mm.
not something like, right? We can hit the API. That is the right word. We can hit the API. That means we can send a request and we can expect a response.
Okay.
So that is one of the big change that made in JavaScript. Earlier also it was there, but nobody using that. Everybody interested those days. Everybody interested to write that PHP or JSP and all the HTML clubbing together like backend language and front end. Nowadays it is not at all required for us. We can maintain pure HTML JavaScript code separately, and we can do the API calls, and from there and they can do their job. So earlier everything is mixed. When I
Mm.
said that index.php, index.jsp, everything is mixed. And when you are making index.html to index.php, right?
Mm-hmm.
That time there is no interaction from here. So the only interaction will be from here to the here. Obviously, because when you are changing that, when you are writing the PHP code and all right, it cannot be like something pure HTML or CSS. Obviously, right?
Mm.
So you try to understand that, so the scope has been increased only. Why? Because of that, we are able to write a code to hit the APIs. And when jQuery has came into the market, most of the like almost 5 to 6 years, it rules that front end development, because when we are integrating into our HTML pages, first of all, it is not that much weight, and we can do whatever we want using the jQuery. And that those days, this is the big thing, to consume into websites, because majority of the kind of stuff like as I told you, accordion, stamps, whatnot, models, everything we can easily build with jQuery, because it is a library. Behind the screens, we have JavaScript only,
Mm.
but later when jQuery ends, with their era, then actual JavaScript came into the picture. So the scope is till this. When we are talking about JavaScript and jQuery, the scope is the main purpose of JavaScript is to hit the API calls, or maybe do the all the animation stuff, and do all the kind of effects and all only. But after that, JavaScript changed entirely their face as backend development. So if you know the JavaScript, see how earlier it was like, if you want to become a backend developer, you should learn either PHP or Java or .NET. If you want to become a front-end developer, you should learn JavaScript, jQuery, HTML, CSS. But
Mm.
now if you see, if you know the JavaScript, you can become front-end developer, back-end developer,
Hmm. Is that a new thing?
data database developer, game developer.
Oh, is that why it's popular?
Yes, and most important thing, mobile app developer. That much of scope is there now. Now, current time.
Mm.
Now, in the sense, it's been already there last 4 5 years back itself, but this is the scope of that. So
Oh, so,
earlier the scope is only for the front end.
oh,
Now
okay.
I know, like only jQuery came into the market, and after that backbone JS came, Knockout JS came, then after the Angular came, then after Angular versions, React, and next Vue. And when we're talking backend developer, backend, right, Node.js is a completely backend. If you know the JavaScript, you can learn Node. If you know the JavaScript, you can learn Angular. If you know the JavaScript, you can learn database. This is MongoDB.
Mm.
Yeah, and there are few frameworks like like Angular or like React. Few frameworks are there to build JavaScript as well. I mean, to build games within JavaScript and mobile. Yeah, like Ionic, Cordova, whatnot, React Native.
Mm.
All these are mobile related framework. I mean JavaScript frameworks which helps to create a mobile app developer. So now we can check in the internet now JavaScript frameworks. See, Angular, Svelte, Meter, Next.js, AngularJS. The AngularJS is different and Angular is different.
Hmm.
See, if you understand this point, understanding client side, just now only I told you, right?
Yeah.
Client side in the sense
The,
browser, not client. Just looking for a frameworks list. 20 JavaScript frameworks. React, see that? Angular, Vue, Ember, these are all JavaScript frameworks only. If you
hmm.
know JavaScript, you can learn any of the framework. But what exactly market is leading nowadays? The fight will be between only two for sure, React and Angular. And nowadays, if you look at the surveys and the strategies, React is having some upper hand compared to with Angular.
My friend suggested React.
Yeah. So yeah, when you see that market also increase very high when you talk with yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, and when you talk about the backend, obviously Node we have option, and when you talk that uh, database MongoDB, so now if you learn JavaScript properly, you can become a complete full stack developer. You can do front end development, you can do back end development, you can do database, you can create mobile applications, you can create a games, what not, what else is needed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else is needed? We don't need any of the other frameworks. You don't need to learn like Python or Java and all. Once you
Is,
have a complete picture of JavaScript, yes, you can learn any
hmm.
of this.
Is this the most universal language?
Nowadays, yeah, if you ask me that, yes,
Okay.
yeah. So see now, if you see that full stack development, right? See, when you say that full stack development, people can do
Some of the,
everything,
yeah.
complete development, right?
Yeah.
No, you don't need to look for like APIs, because when you know that Node.js, you can create a APIs. You don't need to wait a front end. If you know JavaScript, either Angular or React, you can build a front end. And definitely we need a when we are talking about applications, definitely we need a database. We don't need to learn like SQL or MySQL. Like there is MongoDB, which doesn't have a SQL, so we used to call NoSQL. And nowadays, mobile app development is, when compared to previous days, nowadays mobile development is very high, right? So people are interested, companies are interested to, even the startups also interested to make mobile applications. So React Native is one of the famous, right now, one of the famous. You can check that, mobile app mobile framework. See MongoDB. And the advantage is that we have that advantage. I'll tell you that advantage very soon. Flutter, okay. Nowadays, slowly it is increasing. Flutter.
Hmm.
See that React Native, which is part of our list as well. Cardova, which is part of our list as well.
Mm-hmm.
Xamarin, it is purely C sharp, .NET. So no JavaScript related stuff. Firebase is completely NoSQL again. Native script is another thing. I think now the Ionic is also list of our purely again. Okay, so why now we are instead of like now see, if if you want to build a mobile application, so definitely what you need, if you want to make that in Android, you need an Android developer. Or if you want to make it in iOS, you need an iOS developer.
Mm.
But the advantage with the JavaScript frameworks, when you're talking about this, especially like React Native or Cordova, the advantage is we can build a cross-platform. Cross-platform in the sense the previous example which I gave you, right? When you want to build application in Android for Android device, you must need a native Android developer. So
Mm.
the code and the structure is completely different. And when you want to build like in a mobile I mean application for iOS, definitely you need a native iOS developer. Again, the code is different. So to build a mobile application, you need iOS developers and Android developers. There will be huge cost, for developers you are giving and for hosting you are giving and all of them. But when you are creating a mobile application using React Native or any of the JavaScript framework, the advantage that you have is you can build a cross-platform. That means there will be only one developer and one code setup. You can host for iOS. I mean, you can build for as iOS at the same time. You can build as Android also. Same code. You don't need a two developers. You don't need a two code branches.
Okay. Is that for React Native? Or
Yeah, yeah, React Native, yes, React Native.
okay.
I mean, this is purely for if you know the JavaScript and all, the Ionic or React Native or not.
Mm.
You don't need the thing. So and what we can do, like we can make that cross-platform mobile applications. We can build that in a front end and back end and database. We're handling everything. And the surprising fact here is we can build desktop applications also using with the JavaScript. And
Mm.
here is the interesting fact that I'll tell you that this entire Visual Studio code built with JavaScript only.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can build this user interface. You can build using with CSS, HTML and CSS. You can build. You can try if you want. See, it's a simple hover only, right? You don't need anything here.
Yeah. It's very simple.
Yes. Yeah. You can build it, but definitely the purpose there is a one more framework. Actually, I also forget that desktop application development frameworks. Is that link here? It is. Yes, Electron. I forgot that. This is the one of the framework that where we can build a desktop applications like Notepad, Notepad plus plus, or Visual Studio Code. We can build that.
Mm.
Platform desktop application frameworks are created to assist developers in creating applications that run on multiple operating systems, making them the ideal solution for reaching a wider audience. Here are some of the most popular cross-platform desktop app frameworks. See, you can check this. Electron is a well-known desktop application framework that is based on Node.js, and Chromium that is widely used by industry giants such as Xclass, Slash, Visual Studio Code. See,
Mm. Yeah, Discord
boom,
makes it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Discord.
Yeah.
Electron makes desktop app development possible using with web technologies like HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. Like see,
Mm.
that is the reason I told you, like this completely built on using with HTML, CSS. You can build this as well. You don't need any separate applications or under, because this is the kind of, when you see that it is complicated, but when you really build this kind of layout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously it will. Yeah, you can have it. You will definitely get a confidence. And see that cross-platform compatibility, cross-platform in the sense, again, when it comes to desktop, obviously we have a different operating systems, right? We have a Windows and we have a iOS as well, right?
Yeah.
So that cross-platform compatibility, easy installation and updates, extensibility through the use of plugins. See all these features that we have. But when you look for the second one, Java FX, what you need, you must learn the Java. You must learn the Java development kit
So Java
in
is different
3D.
from
But
JavaScript.
of course,
Okay.
Java is not. I mean, when you talk about that initial days, completely different. Java and JavaScript is different, and now also different. But the purpose is now both are equal. When when
Mm.
when you compare it with Java, nowadays JavaScript is more popular and used, right? Because using with Java we can make the APIs, but using with JavaScript we can make APIs, we can hit the APIs, we can create that mobile applications, whatnot,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Yeah.
And if you see this Qt, this is also C++ based, not JavaScript. Tauri, what exactly this is based on? Yeah, this is again Tauri is something like again HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for desktop apps.
Mm.
Yeah, the name itself it is showing JS, HTML5, CSS, and JS. Flutter
Mm.
and desktop. Yeah, Flutter we can use for desktop application and as well as mobile applications. Nowadays, as I told you, React is comparatively moving, I mean heights, and Flutter also going heights nowadays. Probably next 2 3 years, we may hear Flutter sounds more.
Mm.
Yeah. So this is that scope of JavaScript that we have. So you won't get this information. I'm challenged that you won't get this much of information on the internet, but you may get. But the point is, you won't get immediately when you are finding something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you understand and if you know the scope, then your thought process also will be changed for sure. You don't need
Well,
to feel or you don't need to worry about that. I mean, if something is happened to my job, what is the next step which I should take? This kind of
yeah.
questions won't come into your mind. Make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense. Good to have a backup.
Yep. Good to have backup. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So now, how we are going to integrate JavaScript into HTML page, right? So how we are actually dealing with the CSS in the same way, but we have a different style. Okay. What I will do is I'll create a one more file here, script.html. In script.html, I'm not going to write anything initially. It will be like that. And what I'll do here, I'll add script tag and src. And what I'm going to have a JS folder here. I'm going to create one file here, app.js. So the naming convention we can give however we want, and
Mm.
then js/app.js. And when you run that, mm, when you run the script.js, yeah, nothing is there because we didn't write anything.
Mm.
And how can we say that? I mean, the script is really working and it is there. So simply you can check the resource and just click on this react.js. If the URL is working fine, I mean, if you are not receiving any error, that means the script is there and it is linked to HTML page.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
and if you write something within this app.cs, see right now how we have how many ways that we are linking CSS to HTML page. These many ways we have also in JavaScript as well, like external, internal, and inline. Okay, let us say this is the external way. By this time you are already getting this point that we have a separate app.js file and we are linking. But when we
Mm.
are want to write that internal, like script start and script. in here, and type equal to text slash JavaScript. This is optional again. This type is optional. You can write here as well. This is optional, but still we can write it. So this
Hmm.
is the internal way of writing JavaScript. But what exactly the inline is? It is something button type is equal to button click me. When you check this, we have a click me, and when I'm
Hmm.
clicking that, nothing is happening. But what I can write here is on click alert click. Now when I click on that click me, it is showing me one alert message here. Click.
Hmm.
Right. So
Yes.
when you see the code now, so this is the external way and this is the internal way and this is inline. But if you see that on click is not related to it, I mean on click is related to JavaScript, but when you're talking about that attributes, like how type is an attribute for a button, in the same way we have a on click also an attribute. The same way we have a lot of attributes, and you click that on about, on blur, on can play, on change, on click, on DB click and double click, on drag. There are a lot of things on, but we are not going to use all of them.
Hmm.
Okay, few things only we are going to use on click. Okay,
Hmm.
now when you write something, right, somewhere we have to check the output. See, if you write a CS HTML element and CSS, and when you check here, you can straight away see that, if you apply with 100% height, 100 pixels, or background color is something, you will immediately apply here and you can check that. But when it comes to JavaScript, it doesn't have any UID to check it, right?
Yeah.
So you must need a place to check what exactly the result,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for that we have a couple of options, but what is the most common way that we are going to use check the outputs? Okay, so let us say when you check that inspect element, so we know so far that only this area inspect and this arrow and this simulator, right?
Yeah.
But when you check that, yeah, when you check this console, this is the one of the very important option in the developer tools.
Hmm.
So this is actually we are calling as inspect element, but this is the only inspect element. When you check that element, this is only for inspect element. But we used to call this entire bar as a developer tool. And when you see the developer tool, console is the one of the very important thing, because it is asking you to write something here. Let us say example, we don't know. Okay, now can you tell me, 350 plus 342, how much?
350, 342. Oh,
Now,
uh,
so now,
6,
so now you see my screen now. 350 plus 342.
684 or
No, no,
60.
see my screen. I'm
Yeah.
saying see
Yeah.
my. Okay. Now tell
Mm-hmm.
me, 42 into 64.
42 into 64. Uh,
See, this is the answer. You don't need to go for a calculator. Okay, see,
hmm.
I'm saying that, the console of purpose of the console is it will work as a standalone feature, and and you can check the outputs in the console, and
Mm.
console create an option. Console create an option for you to write the code also, something like this, where a name equal to UI session, and you should not click the direct enter, because when you click the direct enter it will be stop. But you can enter, if you want to write something in the next line, you can use that shift enter. And now I'm going to print console dot log of name. Now you can see UI session.
Mm.
This we can write in our codas. Let us say in app.js. What I'm going to write here is I'm going to write where name is equal to UI session. Now I want to see this UI session in multiple ways. Like I can write alert. I'm going to use name because this name is a variable where we are storing this UI session. Okay, so
Mm.
what is the happening? Name is duplicated. Also, if I will take something, UI name, then it is yeah. And next, what is the other way that we have is console dot log of UI name and document dot write UI name. So far,
I see. Oh,
so far
what?
what I did,
Sorry,
it is
go.
me. You ask.
No.
Okay, so for what I did, I'm just storing UI session as a one name. Okay, and I want to print that this UI name into multiple places. Now let me save this and come back to this and clear everything in the console and just reload this page. So first, what I have written here, alert. The
Mm.
same variable only I'm taking here. So UI session I can see here. Okay,
Oh,
next. Okay,
it's like a
and next.
class.
Sorry.
It's almost like a class.
Hmm, no, but how you are comparing it as a class?
Like it's a replacement, like x equals y, so you put y there.
I mean, you're talking about CSS class or you're talking about something else?
No, no, yeah, CSS class.
Okay. Uh, mm,
Like a
but that's
replacement.
yeah. I mean, not exactly replacement, but that CSS classes we are defining one class and we are using in HTML, right?
Yeah.
So we are declaring in CSS file, .css file, and we are using it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Maybe you can understand in that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for understanding purpose only, but don't mix both of them. Okay,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
see that see now you can see total three places. One is that the alert you can see, and second thing in the uh, browser also you can see UA session. When it comes to console, also you can see UA session. Alert we understand, console.log also you understand UA session came, and when it comes to document.write UI name, if you see script.html. Did I ever write anything here, UA session here, before this button?
No.
But how this UA session came here? This is called like a dynamic content.
Okay.
You get my point?
Mm.
This is coming something from the JavaScript, not from the HTML.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm.
Yeah, I think we can stop. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards, obviously it will be like bit aggressive when we are looking into JavaScript variables like the one which you said like where, let,
Yeah.
and functions, data types,
Mm.
operators, and main concept of DOM and all we are going to know learn from tomorrow onwards very quickly.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll try to target it on maybe. Let us see either of these days. Probably we'll get some idea on this Friday, right?
Yeah. Right away.
Okay, we'll plan.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can make a note of it and you can ask.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sure.
See you tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah. Bye.